Everybody, greetings, grasshoppers. This is RJ Redden. Welcome to the show today. We have a special guest today, and I'm very excited about him. I will introduce that in one moment. Before I do that, let me do this. If you are not watching from the Black Belt Bots page, there's a link in the description. The reason why I want you to hit that link is because I want to make sure that Tom and I are getting all your questions and getting all your questions answered. So hit that link if you're not on my page, or just hit that link anyway. Promise you won't miss a second. My name is RJ Redden, if you don't know me. And what I do is entrepreneurs hire me to help them set fire to marketing practices that are no longer working for them, because most can't get traction online to save their lives. And so I create messaging that builds relationships, closes deals with integrity. So that's who I am. And now I get to tell you who this guy is. This guy is a friend of mine, everybody. His name is Tom Birchall. And he is, well, you're so many things at once, Tom, that it's hard to encapsulate a description. But I was talking with him about, goals for 2019 and how difficult it is, because really around every corner in January, you will hear the question, what are your goals for 2019? Goals are great, but without a system in place, it's almost certainly doomed to failure. And so we're going to talk about that today. Tom's got a lot of information on us. He is a systems guy. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I am excited as well. This guy's genius, you guys. And you just need to know that. So, Tom, tell me what kind of draws you towards... Well, first of all, tell us a little about yourself, because I didn't cover it in the introduction.
Sure. I love entrepreneurship, and I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So I grew up in a family of business, and grandfather, father, myself, and my brother and sister are. My boys are in. I got two boys. They're 19 and 22, and they are in business school right now. They're in second and fourth year doing business degrees, and I just love it. Because it's that vehicle that gets you to your goals and dreams. And I built about a dozen businesses starting when I was a kid. In elementary school, we had these at recess. The little machines we built, they're called pachinko machines. I don't know if I got that right, but there's kind of a Chinese where you flick like the little lever and a little ball bounces up and it bounces down between the little pegs. Well, we would build those as kids on a little piece of wood and hammer nails into it and stretch elastic bands across it. And kids would stand there wanting to play. They didn't have marbles. There's an opportunity here. I'm going to go buy a big bag of marbles. And I would sell marbles for a dime or a quarter to kids so they could go and play these. We'd lay them up against the wall, so a little piece of wood like this, and you drop the marble in, and it would bounce around. And if you got into the one that said 10 marbles, you'd win 10, or 5 marbles or none. And so that was the fun thing. That was one of my first businesses.
Nice.
But, moved on from that into... shoveling snow and mowing lawns and going up and knocking on a door and doing what we call is a pitch and saying, hey, here's my story. I'd love to mow your lawn. You can sit in the backyard and enjoy an iced tea while I do all the work for you. A little bit of a benefit. And sure, how much? Well, $20. Okay, great. All those little things start to build those entrepreneurial skills and start socking away a little bit of money. Into university, I was flipping textbooks. So I would buy used textbooks from the upper year guys and gals, and then I would sell them to the next, generation, the next group coming in. And I walked around with $1,000. I got $1,000 cash out of the bank. And I always walked around at the beginning of the term with $1,000 in my pocket where I could, on the spot, buy a textbook and buy them up and then sell them. So all these different things. I built several network marketing businesses. The first one, didn't do anything in. Most people don't. I was one of those guys. The next one, I think I made the fee to join it back was all. The third one, I started to really dial it in. And the fourth one, I was the top rep in the country. And so it's taking and learning what you have, like get out there on the field of play and do something, but then analyze it, get some feedback, adjust, and step forward and do better. And so that grew. I built a number of other businesses. The last one I built to $25 million in about 6 years. We got up to 8 digits in 5, and was successful. I had 90 people working for me, and I've got a lot of systems, tools, and processes that I've learned along the way that I love sharing with people. So that's a little bit about background about me.
Nice. Well, so, and this is what I know about you personally. You have an ability to take an idea, which an idea is really great to have. I love ideas. I'm an idea machine, okay? But an idea by itself is thin air. Taking that idea from thin air and making something working out of it. Maybe it ain't perfect. Maybe it ain't the way that, it's going to be in the future, but taking something and actually constructing something out of it to see if it works. That just seems to be your sweet spot.
It is. And it's something I learned in the engineering world. So I've got a background in systems design engineering and advanced honor psych degree, business management, operations management. For a kid playing in a rock and roll band, I'm a drummer. I love music. Yeah, I was playing in a rock and roll band in high school and didn't have an interest in academics at all. And the tease in the family that I like to tease my brother with is he was the academic one, wanted to be the doctor. And from when he was 4 and knew what a doctor was, that was his trajectory and is today down in Southern California. And I was playing in a rock and roll band, and I've toured most of North America, either singing or drumming, and I didn't have the interest for it. But I ended up having 9 years of post-secondary, and he's only got 8.
Nice.
But it's understanding that iteration process. And I call them system sessions when I'm coaching when people work more closely with me. I walk them through this systematic process of doing system sessions. And it's looking at your business and putting something in place and working with it, tweaking it, and then iterating and getting that feedback loop going. It's simple stuff. And to me, it's second nature because it's just systems thinking, which I've studied and learned and seen and demonstrated for me. As a kid, it was my grandfather. And he spent hours, he was a heavy duty mechanic. And I spent hours and hours watching him problem solve and fixing things and restoring old farm tractors and machinery and all that stuff, and just seeing his methodical process. He was an introvert, and he would look at something and just mull and think and then start to process and work on it. And some of that pedigree, that background, that acumen is what I apply to business and bringing things to life and manifesting them.
Yeah. And so the reason that I knew that you would be great for the show today and able to, offer value to my folks who are, a lot of them entrepreneurs, a lot maybe have started a couple of businesses, maybe this is their first business, but how, you bring so much knowledge of being able to put small systems in place and problem solve the big problem for all of us, right? Which is, how do I build my business? How do I get more people in the door? How can I serve more people? So talk to us a little bit about, creating systems to be able to meet your goals.
Sure. So a quick one is the word leverage. If you're taking notes, write this word down, leverage. Always be looking for a place to go and create leverage for yourself. So, and the way to do that is to build a system. So maybe you have a team that you're working with of a couple of sales folks. Maybe you are the salesperson. That front end lead generation process, I'm going to do a sidebar for a second. Everybody's really focused on the digital world. And when I work with clients, I help them understand there's the digital world. Yes, nice. And there's the analog world, which is like the real world. And so I compare and contrast these two, digital and analog. And a lot of people get into lead generation and sales online digitally, but they haven't got their analog version figured out yet. They haven't got a sales process worked out yet. So you'll want to go and figure out what you do in the real world and then digitize that process. And what you want to do is find places that you can create leverage. And so leverage with your time. A lot of folks that are out networking are spending a lot of time at networking events and chatting with people and having what I call nice conversations. And NICE is an acronym for not interested to care enough. Where you are.
I am completely stealing that from you. I just wanted to let you know on air. I'll be using that again. Go ahead.
And I'm borrowing that from, I've hired 2 billionaires and 4 multimillionaires as coaches along the way. I totally believe in coaching because a coach will help you identify your swing, right? If you're swinging a bat or you're swinging a golf club, you've got a blind spot and you can't watch yourself. I mean, I heard one the other day, you can't look at your own eyebrows. Like you can't like see them, right? You can't do that. So having a coach is someone that can look over your shoulder, look from a different angle and help you out. And so that becomes a very valuable thing. And I learned that from a billionaire coach that I had. And I was chatting with him over dinner and he gave me that. Not interested to care enough. Dolph DeRoos is a real estate guy.
Nice.
But when you get your system, your sales process down and really dialed in, you're able to then digitize it and get it online and be successful with it and have high conversion. You don't have to worry about any kind of magical kind of formula or something like that because you know what works. And that becomes the key piece when you're out networking is to leverage your time and reduce the amount of nice conversations that you end up having with folks and get more productive with that. So every entrepreneur has got to do this conversation. Like I gave the example earlier of walking up and knocking on the door to shovel someone's walk or mow their lawn. I mean, that's a sales process. I started selling in junior high, grade 7, raising money for the band to get more band instruments and the soccer team I played on, we needed to get some uniforms. And so I started having those sales conversations, and that's what we need to do and get good at. Start leveraging that, getting streamlined with that. And one of the ways to do that, I'll throw this out as a little nugget, is to ask better questions. Think of what better questions can I ask folks and be curiously, genuinely, authentically interested in them. And I'll tell you this, amateurs try and sell at a networking event. Stop it. Don't do that. Connect with people. Connect with them as a human. Find out about where they like to vacation, how many kids they have, what they did for, we're just finishing up with the Christmas and holiday seasons. What'd you do for the holidays? Like be a real person and not a salesy, greedy, money-driven kind of, buy my stuff. And then make up an appointment to meet with them at some other point, a couple days, a week later, whatever it might be, and create a platform for yourself and an opportunity to sit down and have that sales conversation. But at a networking event, that's not the place. That's what amateurs do. They try and say, buy my stuff. So get better at asking questions and set up appointments for yourself later, but connect with people. Build the know, like, and trust factor with folks as you network, and leave the sales process for after you've qualified them and you've set up an appointment to have a coffee.
Exactly. So it's less of a cart before the horse type situation, in which right out of the gate. That's and everybody has listened to one of those pitches. Everybody has listened to one of those things and identified, this is way too soon. But it's so hard to sort of identify it when you are doing it. And I know I've done it. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Sarah down here says, hello, Sarah and Tish and whoever's watching. Give me a hello in the comments. I'll give you a shout out too. Sarah says a lot, actually. Sarah had a mentor who did the same, looked at her business and skills from a different perspective, gave her confidence in her ideas, and boosted her business threefold, she says. and sounds like she's kind of taken right in the high points for us. All entrepreneurs have to convert new connections into clients, aka sales conversations. Ask better questions and be curiously interested in other people. Just connect on a human level. Don't pitch. It's so hard to get that across sometimes because people, they're like, well, unless I make a sale, I'm wasting my time.
Right.
Right. So how do you talk to people about that, Tom, when folks come to you with that problem of, I'm in a networking thing, unless I pitch my stuff, unless I get some money, I'm wasting my time here. How do you deal with that sort of roadblock for people?
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you to Sarah for summarizing all that stuff. That was awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it's trusting the process. So what ends up happening is, I'll call them beginners or amateurs or people at the beginning of that sales experience where they haven't had a lot of those conversations. I've been having those since I was, 13 years old, 12, 13 years old when you're grade 6, 7. And you begin to realize that people will start shutting down. And you can just see them shutting down if you're aware and paying attention. And then trusting the process that people buy people, not products. That's just a fundamental understanding. If you want to be a salesperson with integrity and start manifesting your goals. See, we have business goals and they end up being quite focused around revenue. And then revenue ends up being, okay, it's a sales conversation. And so that's part of where I gravitated to here. And to manifest your goals, you need to have good sales happening because you need to get the revenue coming in so you can do your business, the thing that you're doing. And that comes down to these conversations. And it's trusting the process that people buy people, not products. You need to build the KLT factor, right? The know, like, and the trust factor with folks. And they go, yeah, that Tom guy's a good guy. I'd like to do business with him. They feel comfortable. You've created a safe environment. You're not being overly aggressive with your product because you're trusting that people buy people, not products. So that's a key piece to just trust the process.
Well, it looks like Sarah's concurring here. I got some of my best business chatting about what seemed like nonsense. I love that so much, Sarah. Absolutely, my friend. That is how it happens. So what you're saying is the key to not, and we're just talking about networking events here, but the key to not going in there with, sale ready, right? The key to holding your horses in that moment and just trying to connect and be genuinely curious about someone else is to trust the process. But let me ask another question here. There in a world of, I mean, if you're in the entrepreneur shoes, right? And in a world of people who want to sell us entrepreneurs something, their method will get us rich quicker than the last guy, with everyone promising more and more results. How do you lean back and trust the process when there are so many opportunities out there and everyone seems equal, of equal value, especially if you're new? I know that when I was very new, it was all the same to me. I didn't know who to trust. How do you trust the process when you don't know which option to go with?
Right. It's a matter of external and internal. I'd say first trust yourself, right? First trust yourself. And so whatever process or method or person you follow, you need to have that inner trust of your own beingness that I can do this. Now, you're not going to be full of confidence with some new process that you start with out of the gates. It'll be awkward and you'll have marbles in your mouth and you'll trip around your words, get the right sentences formed. But if you don't have that inner confidence that, you know what, I'm going to figure out and I'm going to own this. As an entrepreneur, that's a real key piece is you've got to own what you're doing. And when you own what you're doing, you can step on to the field of play, into the court, into the arena, whatever phrase you want to use, and you can start to perform and do your thing. if you stay on the sidelines watching and taking courses forever, which has a tendency to be the case with in the online space, because there's just so much coming at us, and that's what you're just describing. There's so much that comes at us. Pick something, start doing it, take action, and then get feedback, self-evaluation, some peers, ask some folks. I mean, if you're at a networking event, here's the thing. If you want to go high performance, here's a leverage piece. Find someone you know there, and don't do the chit chat with people you know. Find someone you know there and get productive with it and say, do you know what? Help me out. Just stand within earshot. I'm going to go up to someone here and I'm going to go chat with them. Tell me how I do and give me feedback. Pick 3 things. Give me feedback on how I connected with them, if I talked about sales or not, because my goal is not to do that. And the third thing, fill in the blank. And then just have them kind of shadow you and just stand there and look, but they're listening so that you can debrief after. Why not make it a productive exercise at a networking event instead of just chit-chatting with your buddies? Make it productive.
Yeah, that's a hard one too. I always, but networking events are not my cup of tea. When I have gone in the past, it is so easy to get sucked into the crowd that you already know, right. Especially if maybe there's a client standing there. Well, I got to go talk to my client. You know what I mean? Like, sure. All of that kind of stuff. It's so hard to break out of those patterns, but I see what you're saying about like making it a productive thing. Can I walk into this and grow a little bit today? That's hardly ever the question that folks are asking.
And that goes back to the word I mentioned earlier to write down was leverage. This is a point of leverage. So you're going to be at that networking event anyways. Why not get more leverage out of it? Why not get more value out of the experience? And you can create that yourself by finding someone you know and saying, hey, help me out here. Just have a listen, give me some feedback. I'm going to go up to a couple of people and then we'll meet back at the bar, or we'll meet back over at that corner over there and we'll chit chat and we'll debrief. That's high performance, right? You're taking your same old and status quo and you're kicking it up a level. So it's looking in your business where you can start to do these kick it up a level type of things and thinking more creatively, thinking differently, and getting more resourceful.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I need to read this comment because it's absolutely fantastic, Sarah Fox. I had those toe curling chats when I started in business, like a needy teenager at a school disco. I've got the vision now. I was a needy teenager at a school disco, and that is fabulous. That is absolutely great. But we don't know how we come off. We don't know how these things are reading, and getting someone to just give you a little bit of feedback. What a great idea that is. Mm-hmm. Let's see more notes here. Trust not just the process, but trust you're an interesting person. That's a tough one. Sometimes. I'm not great at selling myself, so I tend to go with the intention of connecting others. Have any experience with that, Tom? Just going to one of these events with the intention of not even making a connection for yourself, but making a connection for someone else?
Absolutely. That is a huge value position you can put yourself in, where people begin to see you as valuable. And what you're doing is, hey, wait a minute. I just talked to a fellow over here that has need for X. And now I'm just talking to this other gal over here that needs Y, and connect them. Hey, come here. Like right then and there, go introduce them. I've done that tons and tons. The dating term for it is being a matchmaker. In the real estate industry, it's called bird dogging. There's different terms in different industries, of course, but you're seeing the value that one person has over here and the value that someone else has over there. And when you connect those, you end up being perceived as the person as having brought the value. You're also, again, bring that word in, you're leveraging, right? You're leveraging a relationship and the knowledge you have of someone's expertise over here with someone's expertise over there. And that's a wonderful way of creating value in the marketplace by being a connector of people, for sure.
Yeah. So zooming out now and just kind of talking about, looking at the year ahead and making your plans, because I know that we've all done that. I've done that a little bit. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants person, honestly. And, sometimes I need a little bit more structure, I know. But looking at, what do you think is the most vital type of system that entrepreneurs who are looking to do more in 2019, what's the most vital system to have in place, do you think?
For sure. I'll throw one out here, and I talk a little bit more about it. I'm going to have a 5-day challenge coming up in short order here before the end of the month, and just getting final things polished up on that. And I'll go into more detail there. And then into the course that I do, I get deeper into it, but I'll throw this out. It's system sessions. And so what we found working with folks is setting aside 2 to 4 hours a week on a regular basis of doing this. It's a common phrase, and if you're new to it, great, I'm glad to help you understand it, but it's this in-on, right? In versus on. A lot of entrepreneurs get really down into the bowels of their business, working in it. There's sometimes solo practitioners. They don't have a team built, or maybe they've been able to get to a bit of a virtual or part-time team, but it's taking some time and carving it out, and I call it system sessions, where you're spending a couple hours tweaking and dialing in your sales process, tweaking and dialing in perhaps a delivery process, going, geez, I make the sales, and then it takes me like 4 hours to deliver, like on each client, whatever your process is. Maybe it's a 4-hour process. It's like, well, how can I carve that down? Where can I get some leverage going on? How can I perhaps qualify my customers on the front end so that they have a little bit more context and background, so that when I'm delivering on my service, it's an hour less of my time because I have a better qualified client coming in the first place. Like, taking the time to step back and think strategically of where are these little different leverage points that I can do where I can maximize my business and get more happening with less time and effort on my part. So that's one of the ways to be able to do that.
Beautiful. Let's see, we've got more notes here. The most vital system for entrepreneurs to do better in 19 is system sessions. 2 to 4 hours to we used to call them postmortems in the furniture business, which I used to work at eons and eons ago. But doing a postmortem, that's something that the whole team gathered, and we did that every time we did a big job. We would do a postmortem.
Mm-hmm. Hugely valuable,
and I know the value, and yet I'm going to just share with you, I don't do this. So I think that a lot of people, I mean, and if you're like me out there in viewer land, if you're like me at all and you know the value of this and yet you don't do it, just type a yes in the comments. Or if you don't want to do that in the comments, just type a yes to me privately so that we can celebrate together. I think one of the most, what do you got? You got something for me?
I was going to punctuate that with some science. So the research we had at Nortel. So I was a project manager at Nortel for years, and the science, the study, the research they did was that an hour planning saved 10 in implementation. I'll just let that sink in. An hour of planning saves 10 in implementation, and we would spend hours and hours and hours project planning, getting things in place, getting things engineered, getting things figured out. And that's the value I bring to my clients, is helping them understand some of this kind of corporate tools that are not that well known or understood in the small business space. I mean, I got 9 years of post-secondary, and I shouldn't be here, but I love it. I just love business, and I love entrepreneurship. And it's just so fun to see people meeting and reaching success in their business and reaching their goals and dreams, because this stuff is all working. Take people from struggle into starlight and help them with learning the tools, systems, and processes, getting the knowledge, skills, and abilities down so that they're firing on all cylinders and it's making it happen.
So back to the issue.
Right.
Because I am completely sold on postmortems. I know what good that they do. That hour planning versus 10 of implementation, I am with you all the way.
Okay.
Why? What is it? What is the big roadblock that you see that makes people know the value, but still don't sit down for that hour or two a week and review what's working, what's not, what could change?
Yeah. Two things. One is not knowing to do it in the first place. And we're talking about it here, and hopefully them learning, it'll be like, okay, good, I know it. But you already covered that off and you said, I know to do this, but I don't. The second piece is beginning to build a habit of doing it, to do it. That becomes that piece of creating the implementation process. And so new habits take a while to start to dial in, and it's creating awareness. And one of the best tools for creating awareness is, I like to talk about the RAS, the reticular activation system. And with folks that work with me, we get into this quite deeply. I'm a geek in that area, having a psychology degree. And the way the RAS works is it's the filter. And it is working now all the time, 100% of the time, every waking moment. And the purpose of the RAS is this. Our sensory systems, our eyes, what we see, our nose, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, or what we hear, is literally gathering all information all the time. If we didn't have the RAS, and let me describe it, it's about the size of your pinky finger. It's located in your brain. You know where your uvula, that little dangly bit when someone's singing, whoa, right? And then in cartoons, they zoom in on the throat and you can see the little punching bag at the back. It's right up behind that. So if you took your arm as your spinal column and tipped your fist forward and created your brainstem, so up in your neck and just into your head, kind of in that inner, in between your ears and right back up there, that's where your reticular activating system in. And it's this little thing about the size of your pinky finger, and it points forward. It's the filter that stops all that noise of everything you've ever seen, heard, touched, felt, or listened to from being in your conscious awareness. And so this is like a scientific mechanical thing that starts to help us with our goal achievement, because we are using this tool now purposefully and with like knowledge and intention, instead of it just happenstance. So if you start creating more awareness of spending that time on postmortem, on debriefing, on feedback loops, so that you can improve your processes, create systems, dialing into that starts to create the reality of it, because your reticular activation system will gain the awareness. It's kind of like a radar seeking out in the ether and in well, not the ether, but in our reality. I'm just kind of looking out into space on either side of the camera here to have this happening. And so, well, the question is then, how do you program that, or how do you start to tap into that purposefully? And it would be this. Here's a little tactic. Is on a daily basis, I've got this phrase. It's a little bit of a rhyme. I plan my day before it begins, and I celebrate my many wins. And so in the morning, I plan my day before it begins, and at nighttime, I celebrate the wins I had for the day. And even just simply doing that one piece alone. And as you plan your day, you write into it debrief time, 12 o'clock to 12:30. I don't know, kind of beginning of your lunch hour. Do it just after lunch. Do it at the end of the day. Do it, I don't know, coffee break in the morning, 10 o'clock. And even as entrepreneurs, take coffee breaks, take lunch breaks, people. And I'm guilty of this. I
am guilty right now.
It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you put your head up and it's like, man, I haven't eaten since like whatever, 6 or 7 o'clock this morning or whatever time it was.
Yeah, my wife will come home and she'll say, did you eat anything besides pretzels today?
Right. So writing that down in the plan starts to give your conscious mind the awareness of it, which will get into your reticular activating system, your RAS. And when you get to the end of the day, a little awareness trigger will go, I didn't review today. I didn't do that debrief today. Or if it's once a week that you do this, maybe it's Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock, every Tuesday. You're just setting aside a little bit of time to do some review and debriefing. That little process alone will start to really change things because you're taking a little bit of that time to reflect and go, yeah, we did a process the other day and it didn't work out too well. And so what can we do to make it better? And you make it better. And if you haven't been planning that in, your awareness isn't being dialed into it. And this is where goal achievement and goal getting starts to fall down, is because our reticular activating system isn't programmed and people aren't taking the time to program it. And that's what I like teaching people how to do. And one of the key things with that is this journaling. So a practical tool. I love getting practical here. Get yourself a journal.
Practical. That's what I need, is the practical. I love the biological terms you're throwing out there, but what my brain can grab onto and chew a little bit is the practical. So go into it for me.
So here's something I did. It was in January. I'm out, go hit the bookstores, and they have clearance tables on right now of selling books. Go find yourself some journals. There'll be guaranteed at Chapters, Indigo, bookstores across the country, a clearance table right now here in January. And I am confident that there's going to be some journals on one of those tables. I brought a stack of 8 journals. I think they were $1 a piece. I'm like, perfect. They had flowers on them. As a guy, I may not have bought them from a typical guy, but I didn't care. I thought, this is great. I got me some journals. On a daily basis, I would write down my values, what my goals were for that day, and what my larger goals were for the quarter, the next 90 days. And just simply putting pen to paper. And I've used the term journaling, and sometimes that creates the connotation of story writing and lots of time, and it'll take 20 minutes, and I'm going to reflect on my day. All that's good. I'm not saying that in a mocking way. I'm saying that from a business standpoint, it doesn't need to take that long or do that kind of stuff. Heck, 5 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. My values, 5 words: trust, honor, love, respect, and worth. Boom, done. I would just write it out. For a year, at the very least, in my journal, you can page through it. At the very least, there's those 5 words. And I'm creating that awareness because it's what I value and I live for. And I want to have that come out when I am talking with my clients and my customers. And in the morning, that little handwriting exercise, not on a computer, there's a different thing that happens when we sit down and we take pen to paper versus typing it. It dials in the RAS. So journal, pen, throw down your values, throw down what 3 things you need to do today. So those are just 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. And then what your broader goals for the quarter are. And they should be dialed down to just a couple of little statements, right? You've done some work on your planning, hopefully. And if not, that's what I like doing with folks, is helping them with this 90-day program that I've got, is to go and figure out what those goals are, and then boil them down to some nice, tight, strong sentences that you know, and even dial them down to words, because it triggers in your mind what's happening. And you can just jot down 12 lines. Boom. Takes 120 seconds. And you've just, like, that's huge leverage. 120 seconds. You've got your quarter dialed in, you've got your day dialed in, and you've got who you are as a person, which we talked about earlier. Who's your beingness, like own it. You've got that dialed in. Those 3 things, hugely valuable.
So is that then the system before the system? Because, you know, we just talked about being able to sit down for a couple hours a week, because I have a lot of blocks there. One, I'm afraid to look at some of that stuff alone sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, sometimes if I look at how many hours it took me to do that job, I go, oh, really? You know, I mean, is this small 120 seconds that you're talking about? Is this something that if that habit is made, then it's easier to make the larger habit of sitting down and looking at what's been happening for the week?
Absolutely, yes. Because when you're sitting down on a daily basis and writing out even those 3 things, values, 3 goals for the day, and your 3 broader goals for the quarter, those things are going to start to dial in your ass. You're going to start to perform and do those things. You're more easily going to filter out, or here's the better part, automatically not even get distracted or even see the things that you were distracted with before. Your beingness is going to zero in on your reticular activating system, is going to zero in on the things that are serving you. And because you wrote those things in the morning, it'll start to get dialed. And if you are wanting to specifically have this debrief time happening on a daily or weekly basis, add that to one of the things you write down. So write those 3 things plus maybe 3 habits that you're wanting to form right now in the new year. And that will create that awareness for you, because you put pen to paper, the synapses that all connect in your brain to even form the words as you write it down, huge. And then you're creating that awareness over the day. You do it a couple of times, you don't do it a couple of times, it's fine. But you know what? Back to the baseline, that 120 seconds I took in the morning before my day started. I plan my day before it begins, and I celebrate my many wins. You're moving forward with accomplishing your goals.
Nice. That's that's pretty tremendous, because like when I just as a normal, entrepreneur on the street, let's say, thinking about sitting down and doing, a couple of hours of, what's been going on this week, the post-mortem type of stuff, that seems, even though I'm convinced of the value, it seems insurmountable. But writing down 12 lines on a piece of paper is doable. It's doable. It's something and then it's something that will set me up for being able to do the big stuff later.
Mm-hmm. And just to comment too, you mentioned spending a couple hours on a postmortem or debrief. I think that debrief time would be shorter. Earlier when I talked about a system session, it's different than the debrief time. System session is specifically like building some kind of new tool that'll help you move forward. Or for example, something in your operations process where you realize, geez, because we get ideas like that as entrepreneurs. You go, if we just had like a form that one of the guys could fill out before they pack the order, we'd have less errors, because we're getting a lot of returns coming back. And so, who's going to build that form? So that system session time is those little ideas that you get. Block off time in the week to be able to go do that, and then go work on that little form. Make that little checklist. We had one group that made checklists. It was a food court company that was a fast food company, and the turnover was really high. Yeah. And what we ended up doing is getting little checklists built all around the workstations. And there was a lot of things involved with the processes. And when employees had these little checklists, little piece of paper, just tucked in a corner here and over and there. And when you turn around to go prepare this other thing, boom, there's one right in eyesight. And so it kind of helped them move through a customer's orders to get the food ready. And whoa, that just streamlined things. So that kind of thing is what you would build in the system session in that 2-hour block, is making these little checklists or order forms or little things in your business that you have. Ooh, that's a good idea, but you end up not doing it.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
So you block off that time, then you can go do it.
Yeah. Catch up on comments here. I love this one. My mentor had me write a schedule of weekly successes, but I got out of the habit. Oh, I know, right? Like sliding out of those habits is the worst, because the frustration that comes, like even what you were saying with having those little systems to streamline processes and stuff. We have those ideas I have those ideas all day long, but, and I'm extra super frustrated when I have the idea, because I know I don't have time to make that checklist happen. And I know it would make my work so much better and my clients happier. But it's a vicious cycle almost when you slip out of those habits. And it can really be, I mean, you and I know Jay, and he's always talking about the depression rate among entrepreneurs. sometimes it's because of little things like this that you can start to handle in 2 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Let's see here. We've got 12 lines, 3 goals for the day, your values, and 3 goals for the quarter. That's simple enough. Even RJ might be able to do it. We'll see, won't we? Taking that as a challenge, Sarah Fox. Oh, hey, Stacey Robinson. Good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. Hop on that replay. There's been a lot of good stuff we're talking about here around setting up systems so that you can have success. I mean, none of us can escape the question in January. It's around every corner. What are you doing in 2019? What are you doing? What are your goals? What are you doing? And I love hate relationships. I have a love-hate relationship with my goals because of that very thing, is that I'm going to publicly tell you all that I'm going to, visit the gym 3 times a week. And then by February, I'm like, let's talk about something else, shall we? I mean, I'm so interested in little systems that will allow you to reach a goal, because to me, the goal is almost less important than the system that you have in place to make the goal happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can, after the goal, if you still have the system in place, which of course you probably have it in place through habits, then you can go on and get something further. The goal, that system doesn't have to stop working at the finish line.
Say that last part again.
The system that you have the system that you have there to get your goal in place, it doesn't have to stop working at the finish line.
Mm-hmm. And carry on. that becomes that's why I love systems so much, right? Because as you start to identify from a feedback loop, feedback session, or postmortem, whatever it is, oh, we should put this in place. Okay, nice, good, that's in place. And then 2 weeks or 2 months later, you got another one that's put in place. Ooh, better. We just improved the system. And if we put this little tweak in here as well, whoa. And if we put a couple others, whoa, like that system will grow and live on. And what you're doing now is, as an entrepreneur, you're working smart. A lot of entrepreneurs work hard. I think both are important. And I'm a huge proponent of working smarter. And so as you start to get these little building blocks in place, and that's what system sessions do on a weekly basis. And if you don't start blocking off the time and doing this stuff, it won't happen. But over the course of a year, I mean, you've heard the example of financial, right? So the business that I built to 25 million was a financial company. And this whole concept of compounding interest, right? That penny is socked away for a day over the years is going to compound and be huge. Well, yes, it is and does. Let's do that with our business. Let's take this little bitty part of a system that you put in place from the 2 hours you spent this week in a system session, get it nailed down. Now let's add another one to it next week. Good. Let's add another one. Let's add another one. And this is the way you start to systemize and build your business so that it's not so reliant on you. You can start to create space for yourself. You can get your time back.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk about in with the course that I've got is doubling your income and tripling your time off. And you need to start putting systems in place to be able to do that kind of thing. And it's a reality for a lot of business owners.
It really is. And I at one point I worked a job at a furniture company, and gosh, the systems that we designed, and it started with a little thing that we started doing differently. It just one thing, put that in place, and then start to build around it. We had millions of dollars ran through our team. Millions of dollars, because we could do the big jobs, and we could do the big jobs with very little margin of error. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget that. I mean, the salesman basically just, she was like, I trust you, build a system, it'll be fine. She was awesome. And yeah, so the value of what you're talking about lasts way beyond 2019, doesn't it?
Right. Right. And if you want to build a business that is predictable from its revenue generation standpoint and your delivery of service to your clients and the meaning and impact you want to give to your client base out there and the people that you serve and support, the best way to do that is start to get these systems in place and build and grow on them, and then teach your team to be having an eye for that kind of thing. Like, where and how can we improve? Okay, great. They've got an idea. Nice. Okay. Well, who's going to put that in place? Unless you book off some time to go and build that checklist or build that order form or put a new process in place, it won't happen. So you need to book off that time so that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have talked away an entire 51 minutes. This is not uncommon for Tom and I, everybody. But we have talked away an entire 51 minutes. Do you have any? I know you've got some stuff coming up. In addition to that, do you want to talk about any kind of closing points that folks can walk away with today?
Well, two things. Yeah. So in that order, a couple of things that I've got coming up is a 5-day challenge and a course and a mastermind. So those are three things that are coming up here in the January, February, March timeframe. And probably the best way to connect with me would be on my Facebook page. That's where I'm probably most active and got the most information going on. Business page. And that's over at Tom Birchall Biz Page, BIZPAGE. On Facebook, and I'm doing Facebook Lives there, and got a show happening, Entrepreneur Spotlight. And then if folks want to just talk with me directly, just to calendly.com/Tom Birchall is a great way to connect. It's my online booking calendar, and yeah, that's great. Exactly like that. No spaces, of course. FB.me and then Tom Birchall Business. Yeah, exactly. So that's the ways to get in touch, and we can have like a call information session and have a chit chat booking through my online calendar. Wrapping up for ideas is what I talked about earlier. Number one was leverage of looking at places where you can leverage. And then we talked about system sessions of where and how you can spend the time, book it into your calendar on a weekly basis, where you're taking that time to go and build a system for your business. Right alongside that, we talked about kind of that debriefing and post-mortem time of that feedback loop. And that's something that can happen, maybe a set aside time specifically, or I think as you get mindful of it, it's more a mulling thing that you kind of think about, maybe driving home or from an appointment or wherever, you're mulling on it, but you've got that systems session time set aside to be able to implement it. Then we talked about the RAS, reticular activating system, and it's a key piece that I go into more on the 5-day challenge and in the course that I've got of teaching people how to program that purposefully and start accomplishing your goals and making them manifest. I like talking about three things that I'm about is meaning, creating meaning, money, and manifesting, because they end up being kind of the three hallmarks of business. If you can create meaning in people's lives from the serving, supporting them, that's an awesome thing to accomplish. Being able to make money at it and be profitable is fantastic. And manifesting what it is that you want to do is something that's a wonderful thing. Because then you're building the lifestyle that you want, right? Because our business is the vehicle to get us to where we want to be and having the lifestyle we want to enjoy and be living life on our terms instead of someone else's. That's why we're entrepreneurs. Yeah. I value freedom so much. I do not like driving in traffic, and I enjoy and value that probably the most of anything, of not having to commute or drive anywhere, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, beautiful. Thanks for all of the information. I think that Sarah has thrown your Facebook link down, linked your page down there.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
That's great. The best. Stacy says, to me, just like creating something that is values or principle based, is that a good system can pertain to so many different things. Just learn to systematize and freedom. It's absolutely correct. Well, regular viewers will notice we've been off topic for a little bit. We haven't talked about bots in a bit, and I just want to say that on next Tuesday, I will of course be talking about bots again. I'm going to talk about a little experiment that I've been doing, and how that's working out, and how you might be able to use my results to engage your bot people even more than they are engaged now. So engaging subscribers is the name of the game. And then next week we'll have someone in who's going to talk a little bit about going to touch on some of the brainy stuff that Tom has brought up today. Actually, Jenny Harkle is going to come in next
Jenny.
week. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And she's launching her book as well, so she'll talk a little bit about that. So that's what's going on next week. My friends, you can always find me on Black Belt Bots, and if you type live in the comments, you'll never miss another show because you'll get little reminders in the bot of when the show is. As always,
can I jump in?
Please.
I want to just laud on you, praise, compliment, say how awesome you are, RJ, because there's a lot of bot builders out there. And I appreciate about you and the way you do bots is it's very relational. In sales, when I was building my company, the one to 25 million, I made a decision to put the person at the middle of the universe, not the product. And I see that you do that yourself. And I think that was the key to my success, is putting people and relationships and the human in the center of the universe. And in bot building, there's such a potential for it to get mechanical and, of course, robotic, but quite salesy. And you do a fantastic job of keeping it very relational and human. And I think that's wonderful.
Thanks. That's music to my ears, because that's the kind of business owner that I want to be. And I think that in the end is going to be helpful and effective for teaching many, many more people bots than just if I focused on, quick, easy, salesy, money type stuff. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on the show today. You were a delight to have. We will have you back.
Oh, thank you.
And that is it for now. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you in a bot.
Bye-bye.